Saturday is Dan Mullen's return to college football, and I'm excited. UNLV fans should be excited. I think Dan Mullen can succeed. I never felt like firing him at Florida was the obvious decision when you were going out to hire Billy Napier. It hasn't gone very well for the Gators. Pretty sure their record has actually been worse since firing him, and there were those posts, retweets, likes, whatever that people point out on social media back in the day of Dan Mullen acknowledging that, hey, Florida hasn't done great since Dan Mullen left. Oh, what do you know? So Dan Mullen is back at UNLV, and I don't believe the Rebels are a playoff contender this year. They open the season on Saturday against Iowa State, and you only get one chance to make a first impression, which is really what's on the line here for Dan Mullen in some capacity. Reportedly, they're going to play both Alex Orji and Anthony Colandrea, the Virginia transfer. I've seen better options at quarterback. I guess you could do worse. I actually don't think Colandrea is bad. I don't know that he had a great support system around him at Virginia last year. In 11 games, he threw for over 2,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions, 62% completion. He can make plays from time to time. Alex Orji, of course, the Michigan transfer. Yeah, if he's legitimately in the running to be a guy you're relying on to throw the football, you have problems. Las Vegas, you have a problem. So for Dan Mullen's sake, I hope that is not the case. The reason I say there's all downside for Dan Mullen this weekend is they open with Idaho State. It's not a marquee football game. Now, I'm actually broadcasting Idaho State's game against Southern Utah in Cedar City next weekend, so I'm going to be watching the Idaho State game rather intently for broadcast prep. But also, I want to see what Dan Mullen's team looks like. He hasn't coached in many years. What's the identity of the offense going to be? How buttoned up is the team going to be in week one? They've brought in a who's who of has-been blue-chip transfers like JoJo Earl, like Justin Flo, like Alex Orji, amongst others. So I'm curious to see how that works out. I mean, if he'd recruited those sorts of guys coming out of high school first, we would have said Dan Mullen has the best roster in the Mountain West. I don't know that he does this year. I think that nod goes to Boise State. But certainly the caliber of athlete he has brought in is above what your average Mountain West team is going to have. The question comes down to whether he can get them to play cohesively and play good football and, frankly, shake off the rust. Now, Idaho State's a good team to do that with on paper. They haven't had a winning season at the FCS ranks competing in the Big Sky since 2018. They've started to take some steps forward as a program. They can score the ball a lot at the FCS level. They can throw the ball all over the field and will do so. But this is a no-win scenario of sorts for Dan Mullen on Saturday, because if you go out and as a well over 20-point favorite beat the living daylights out of Idaho State, well, guess what? Everyone's going to look and go, oh, okay, congratulations, you can beat Idaho State. On the other hand, for a roster I have questions about, a coach who hasn't done this in quite some time, if you come out and you look a little rusty, if you look a little shaky, well, suddenly people might start to worry. I'd encourage you to not overreact one way or the other. UNLV will have other games, most notably against UCLA, who's coming to Allegiant Stadium later in the non-conference slate. That's the game that you can really start to measure what the Rebels will be, because that's an actual Big Ten team. I don't think they're a great Big Ten team, but they're still a Big Ten team, and that's a higher caliber roster than you're going up against here against Idaho State. So I don't think there's a lot to learn. I think UNLV fans should be excited because it's the dawn of a new era, because they're going to win the game. I just don't think you're going to be able to make a ton of strong takeaways necessarily, other than, hey, that was fun. And you know what, UNLV fans? I'm here for that, because you guys went through the ringer for several decades as football fans, and then Barry Odom brought you back to life, and then he bolts for Purdue, who are starting the North Carolina transfer, Ryan Brown at quarterback. Ryan Brown is his name. He runs a lot, and you'll know that he throws a lot. So, you know, UNLV is a team that's brought in a bunch of transfers, and they're coming off a really successful season in which they were consistently and justifiably inside the top 25. They picked up some really solid wins a year ago. But they're a team that kind of has an element of mystery. So too does UCF, who I'm talking about later in today's show, that I'm down on for several reasons for this year, not necessarily forever, but for this year, I am down on UCF. But these are programs that are trying to do kind of the Indiana, the Colorado, 30 to 40 transfers are coming aboard. Let's throw everybody at the wall, spaghetti style, and see what sticks. So I'm excited to watch UNLV because I'm curious to see what they look like. That'll be a fun way to do game prep for me next week. But there's nothing Dan Mullen, unfortunately for him, can gain other than getting his guys in shape and trying to figure out who your quarterback's going to be. I think they're better off going with Colin Drea because he's a more capable passer, and I don't suspect Dan Mullen wants to throw the ball 12 times in a game. I think he wants to do a little bit more than that, so I don't think Alex Orji is really your guy. I also wanted to touch base on the other game that's happening after Farmageddon tomorrow, which I will have a reaction show up here for you on the channel, wherever you're listening to or watch this show. Reaction show season is so back. There will be one every week of the college football season on this channel, starting tomorrow until the season, the regular season comes to a close and conference championship weekend. Reaction to playoff games. It's finally that time of year. But the other game is Kansas and Fresno State. Now, Matt Entz is not to be trifled with. And I had Emmanuel Henderson on recently here on the program last week, and he's great. Should be a good player in Kansas's offense, really explosive athlete, hasn't had the chance really to pop in college football, could become a household name at receiver by the end of the year. They still have Jalen Daniels at quarterback. They still have Lance Leipold as their coach. They've done a great job holding on to him. Having a letdown season last year was a big part of that, of course. But Kansas is almost a 2-touchdown favorite against Fresno State. I don't know that I would pick Kansas to cover in that spot. That's a stay away for me. I'd lean towards Fresno State plus 13. The reason is Matt Entz, if you don't know that name, was a longtime coach at this program called North Dakota State. He went on staff as an assistant last year at USC and then went over and took the Fresno State job. So Fresno State's a program that one day can return to the college football playoff. I don't know if that's this year. They've named E.J. Warner their quarterback, who's certainly been productive over his career at a couple of Group of 5 schools. He turns the ball over a lot. We'll have to protect it against the Jayhawks. I expect Kansas to win. Won't be shocked if this game gets uncomfortable. Entz is a heck of a coach. I mean, a heck of a college football coach. So Kansas, you've officially been warned. I, Spencer McLaughlin, host of the Locked On College Football podcast, have warned you, even though it's week 1 and you have a veteran quarterback and a veteran coach, and that's why I'm not picking an upset, and I think Kansas will be okay. Don't be surprised if at least for a half maybe, that game's a bit uncomfortable. It's the first year for Coach Entz and the Bulldogs, so I don't have lofty expectations for him in 2024. I'm just saying he's got a quarterback that's thrown for some more than a few yards in his college career, and he's a really good coach. That can be a formula to, at the very least, make things exciting, which I hope it is.